Welcome to The Holistic Nurse with your host, Peggy Smith. Peggy will introduce and educate her viewers about the differences between alternative, holistic, and complementary medical therapies. Her goal is to empower the lay medical consumer to learn how to advocate for themselves. So now, please welcome the host of The Holistic Nurse, Peggy Smith.
Hello. What if your body has been warning you about your health for months, even years before you're notified with a medical diagnosis? What if your body's been sending quiet signals long before serious illness develops, and most people just overlook or dismiss these signals? Things like persistent fatigue, brain fog, sleep disturbances, digestive issues, unexplained anxiety, and just chronic inflammation and just overall not feeling well. Well, these are not just random inconveniences, but they are early warning signs that your body sends to you to regulate, to show you that something isn't working right. Everything is not on an even keel. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Holistic Nurse with Peggy Smith. I'm joining you today at our new time. We are now on Saturdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And today, this is a podcast where we explore health from a holistic perspective, whole person, body, mind, environment, and lifestyle. Today, we're going to be discussing common body warning signs that most people often miss. And by the end of this episode, hopefully you'll begin to recognize some of these signs and can look at your body and your health in a different way. The body is always communicating with us. We're not always listening, but one of the most remarkable signs of things about the human body is that it does constantly talk to us. Many times it's even telling us things that we just don't want to hear, which is why it's so much harder for us to pay attention to it. It actually communicates with sensations, symptoms, and changes in how we feel, just about even unrelated things. You can think about the body as a highly advanced biological monitoring system, very complex. And every second, your body is tracking your vital signs, your sensation, how much energy you have for the effort, the activities that you're trying to engage in, immune responses, hormonal imbalances, nervous system activity, and even environmental exposures that we might not be aware of. When something begins to move out of balance, the body often sends us small warning signs in the beginning. The signals might be low energy, irritability, headaches, maybe some mild digestive changes, poor concentration, just little things you just don't know why suddenly you're grumpy. It can be as simple as that. And most people dismiss this just as a normal part of life, must not be having a good day, not drinking enough water. You always have excuses for the little signs that you feel and hear. But from a biological standpoint, your body is actually talking to you and trying to get the message that something in the system needs attention. It's like the warning light on your car's dashboard, and for older cars, the mechanic often says, well, the light just stays on sometimes for no reason at all. But there's always a reason when the lights are on in your body. Holistic health recognizes that symptoms, though, are not always the problem. Most symptoms are really just information about what's going on. They're part of your body's attempt to correct itself when things are imbalanced. And that's something called homeostasis. Homeostasis, if it is disrupted, your body begins to adapt to malnormal feelings and situations. But the adaptation does have its limits. If the stressors continue long enough, even though they're subtle in the beginning, the body just at some point reaches its limit. You hit the wall. The subtle symptoms often develop into more serious symptoms of specific, uh, possibly serious medical conditions. And there's just, it's kind of not hard to decide to learn how to listen to your body. The first step is just choosing to do that. Um, and and turning out the external noise. We always have background noise around, whether it's people talking, the TV, the computer, the phone's beeping, the dogs are barking, the Alexa's telling you forgot to do something. There's all the external noise, and sometimes we don't even realize that we're listening to it, but it is affecting us, and it's taking us away from listening to our own body. So, what we're going to do today is talk about how to identify some of these problems, how you can avoid some of these problems, and just how you can become a business partner, so to speak, with your own body. Uh, and everybody, your family will benefit, you will benefit, um, life will benefit. If you can identify small problems in the beginning, it doesn't end up costing as much from a insurance and medical cost perspective. And right now, with prices going up, we all need to take care of ourselves first so that we can be here to manage the new oncoming stressors that are always there. As you go on and you're thinking about, a lot of times you even say to yourself, uh, I know I'm not drinking enough water. Or you might say, it must be something I ate. You can make excuses for anything, but the signs are going to keep coming louder and louder until you do pay attention or until it knocks you out. Um, I remember years ago ignoring, a persistent cold, and found myself a month later with walking pneumonia, and actually not walking so much, ended up in the hospital as an inpatient. All that could have been avoided if I had noticed the signs of overload when it first started. Uh, Anybody's watching, you'd like to put questions or ask anything live. I do have I see those questions and happy to answer if you have a specific situation. But today, health is not just influenced by um, our environment. It's not just, it's our lifestyle. We're recognizing has a just as much importance as what the way we carry ourselves, the medications we're on, the exercise. It's all one whole person, and we need to have all aspects of us. Your car, if you don't have enough air in your tires, it doesn't matter how much oil and everything else is gasoline you have, the car's not going to go very far. Um, and so we're going to show you how to identify these things, how where you can get help and support. Um, we promote on this program complementary medicine, because as I educate about alternative options that are open, uh, the ultimate goal, since I am a registered nurse, is to help us all need the traditional medical environment less than we may have had in the past or would have if we weren't doing things better to take care of ourselves and change our lifestyles. Um, we offer topics on nutrition. We talk about stress. We all know about the environment. There's a lot of things that we can't control, but we can control our response to the stressors and to the signals that we get. And by controlling it, it doesn't mean ignore them. It means that as we get these signals, pay attention and find out. If you just need to put air in your tires, and the engine gets better gas mileage, then you're saving money as the gas prices go up. So if you're eating the right foods, exercising, and have a healthy lifestyle, you're saving money, at the traditional medical provider, so that you don't need to spend as much money on medications for common ailments, and you don't have to miss time from work. Not all jobs provide sick days, So that's our ultimate goal here, is to educate people to just have healthier, happier lives that work smoother. All the gears in your body need to be oiled regularly, and and you'll know if you're paying attention to your body and something serious is happening. If you get it earlier, your outcome and your chances of retrieving your health optimum status is a lot more increased. So we're going to be talking about, uh, biologically, symptoms sometimes just say that it's been too much pressure for too long, and it's a minor event that makes you snap. Um, it's not that you had a situation at work that wasn't going well, and you just say, "Had enough, I quit." It's that a lot of little things totally unrelated to your job, perhaps, or maybe it's your job and not your lifestyle at home. But all of these things together, it's usually a minor event that your body just snaps. And you hit the wall. You can't go any further until you get attention. Many times we show up in urgent care or emergency rooms with no clue that we've got a really serious medical issue going on. Um, and we're shocked when the doctor gives us the news. And it's important too, in this process of getting to know yourself and listening to yourself, learning how to love yourself and accept yourself. Sometimes we get dealt genes, hereditary situations that we can't control, but we can stay on top of our health so that maybe the symptoms of whatever the hereditary problem is not as intense and debilitating. And I learned from rescuing handicapped animals. I had a spina bifida dog who didn't have a mother saying, "Poor baby, you're handicapped, you can't do anything." This dog was the alpha dog in my pack, and whatever she wanted, she got. And she just seemed to know that she might have to take a deep breath and thrust her dead legs that had no life in them forward to propel herself, but she got to her goals. And I realized, sometimes our training as a human, we look at, the potential for illness even as something that is going to hold us back. And, your thoughts create reality. If you think you have a situation that means you can't do something, chances are you're not going to be able to do it because, as they say in the preschool book, can't never could. So we will be taking a short break, and when we come back, we'll explore these a little bit further.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to easysense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's easysense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Hi, you're listening to The Holistic Nurse with Peggy Smith, where we explore science and wisdom and alternative and complementary options to achieve a whole person, whole body life, healthy life. And many people today are becoming more aware that our health is influenced not just by medical care, but by everyday lifestyle and environmental choices. In the case of environmental, we don't always have choices there, but there are still many things we can do to maintain as healthy a life as possible. There are more and more educational workshops and learning programs that can help individuals learn the difference between in the relationship between nutrition, stress, environmental, and just what the body can do naturally to heal itself. But we're kind of like our own worst enemy a lot of times, and I think if most of us could learn how to get out of our body's way, we'd go pretty smoothly. There's early warning signs of your nervous system in your body. The nervous system constantly is monitoring internal and external stresses. When the body perceives stress, the nervous system activates the fight or flight response in the brain, and this releases hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. Your body will sometimes doesn't know whether it's a real fight or flight response, the house is on fire, or whether your anxiety in your brain has created uh, an emergency that might not really be a physical emergency, but the hormones have already kicked in and you respond to it with the anxiety and the stress. Hormones prepare your body for action. In short bursts, this can be very helpful in just maintaining our daily lives and meeting our responsibilities. But if stress is chronic, the nervous system can be overactivated. If your job is constantly making you work overtime, or you're even picking up all the overtime you can due to stressors and things in the home and responsibilities, uh, eventually, your body can only go so far. Stress is chronic, the nervous system gets overactivated, and the overload can be expressed by having difficult sleeping or either falling asleep or staying asleep, racing thoughts, anxiety, muscle tension, headaches, and fatigue that just doesn't improve with rest. You can improve some of these things. These are not normal reactions to a healthy life by kind of creating a safety schedule for your life to help that allows you to participate in all of these in more reasonable lifestyles. Um, when biologically the symptoms that may signal the nervous system are basically saying, we've been under too much pressure for too long. I need recovery time. And we usually get the message that we're under too much pressure for too long, but we turn off the TV and don't hear, I need recovery time. When your nervous system is in a constant state of stress, it influences other symptoms like your digestion, um, immune function, hormone imbalance, and just overall metabolism. Um, we all know people that can eat anything they want, junk food, sweet food, fattening food, and they're thin as a twig. Um, Metabolism is usually the characteristics of each one's metabolism is usually based a lot on genetic factors, but knowing your basic style and metabolism, that you can look at your relatives and see how much you have in common with them, etc. You can actually make adjustments in your lifestyle to compensate. Uh, Digestion can be as simple issues as just the sight of food makes you nauseous. Or you create a situation in your it's the stress making you nauseous, and you feel like you can't eat anything, so you don't, and then your body has physical stressors from not getting the nutrients it needs. Um, Sometimes common eating disorders could be perceived as kind of going to the far end of the spectrum of not managing your nutritional and digestive habits. Immune function, some of that has to do with our genetics. Again, we all have common illnesses like diabetes, chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy, multiple sclerosis. Uh, a lot of those diseases, asthma, they often have a genetic proponent. So what that just means is be aware before you have chronic damage to your body, because these illnesses or diseases or situations are creating physical problems in your body. There are things you can do. If you know everybody in your family is a type 2 diabetic, um, it's not necessarily because Aunt Mary, you know, eats lots of cakes and cookies, but if you eat balanced diets with more protein and more diabetic friendly type foods for your pancreas, you don't have to jump from I just got diagnosed all the way to now I'm, losing my circulation, my eyesight, my legs. It can get pretty extreme if you don't manage some of the chronic illnesses that, we may be born with or have the propensity to develop as we get older. Immune function, a lot of factors go into that. Your stress level, how well the sleep you get, how well you replenish. Um, Sometimes we'll grab that candy bar or something, high in carbohydrates to thinking that we're giving ourselves energy. And actually it's kind of like teasing the body. You're not really getting healthy energy that can be sustained, and you're going to crash. Um, it's kind of like, the universe's last laugh. Because we're in control of a lot of things, but the universe spends a lot of time laughing at us, I think, because we're not sure exactly what we mean by control. Immune function, when you don't get enough sleep, then your body just can't fight maybe even the common cold. Where normally, if you're healthy, you drink plenty of water, you eat the right foods, get your vitamin C, uh, you can you can have a pretty active and even somewhat stressful lifestyle and not get sick. But a lot of times, our anxiety, especially if it gets the better of us, then we start thinking, we distort our thoughts, we send messages to the brain from our anxiety and our emotional level that, I can't do this, you're running away already before you even try. Um, and when you're getting enough sleep, you're eating the right foods, you just look at the world with a different perspective. It's amazing how that works. But nurses often don't take care of themselves that well, um, and we're real good at do as I say, not as I do. We tell our patients how we should live and eat and all that. Well, we run to the lounge and have the candy bar and drink our sodas. That processed foods, and the processed sugars are not healthy. It doesn't mean that you have to eat a really bland, boring diet, have a boring lifestyle. There are healthier ways of sweetening your food. Agave syrup is one. There's a lot of different ways to do. There's ways of seasoning your food that are not all the salt that's going to constrict your blood vessels. There's ways of just heard a suggestion just yesterday, in fact, on the actual regular news channel. We consume so much coffee, and people are worried about the prices of coffee going up. Well, if you actually make it not as strong, but with some flavoring and all that, you don't use as much coffee, and it's the coffee, not the flavoring, that causes harm to your blood vessels. It constricts everything. uh, Hormone imbalance, that often is uh, well, we start off with the basis for that the universe gave us. But um, if you're eating the right foods, there's certain foods and nutrients, vitamins, that can build up your stress hormones so that you can function better. But there are many conditions that do require talking to your medical provider. Uh, because you can also do a lot of damage to your body if you try to adjust your hormones without medical supervision. But this is why stress is connected to so many chronic conditions. I have friends that have been dealing with multiple sclerosis, as one example, for years. And because they've managed to control the inflammation in their body and have a healthy exercise lifestyle, eating healthy foods, lots of hydration, they're actually functioning better than I am sometimes. They can, run a marathon and run up and down the stairs, and they have the energy to get what they want to do done in life. And I find that as you're trying to achieve a healthier lifestyle, uh, we often forget about the role gratitude plays in this process. Gratitude, just to be here on this earth, just to be having the opportunity to face your struggles. If you can be gratitude for that, you're grateful for that, um, you realize that your life isn't that bad and the struggle's not as hard, because there are people that would give anything to be able to be on this side of earth, instead of 6 foot under. And so even when you have face challenges, if you remember to step back and be grateful for what you have and who you are, and the gifts that the universe has given you, uh, and it's our responsibility to take care of those gifts and use them in a healthy way. When you're under too much pressure, you might not be able to change your work hours, but maybe you can get more help at home, or maybe you can talk to your supervisor and say, uh, I'll get this done, but I'd like to maybe come in an hour later or leave an hour earlier, so that I can recover. And they find that when people when employers and their supervisors work with their employees and actually listen to what works in their life, your productivity increases, even if you're working fewer hours. And as you feel productive and get recognition for what you're doing in one area of your life, it does go over to all the other areas in your life. So metabolism is something that, we have the little stick figures, and we have the pear shapes and the apple shapes and all of that. Know your limits is important, and you're not going to know your limits if you don't try to reach your limits. Don't just assume because everybody in your family needs bariatric surgery that you're just waiting to get in line behind them. Um, you have to, when you learn to listen to yourself, and sometimes that means spend 15 minutes a day just, okay, body, is there anything I missed today? Let's have a recap. How'd today go? Is anything not working right? Sounds corny, but it really makes sense, and your body will give you the answers if you're willing to give them even 5 minutes a day to ask, how are you feeling today? Most of us are always asking everybody else how they're doing, but ask yourself. And if you're not getting the answer that would be ideal, what can you do to change things? So we're going to take another brief message from today's program sponsor, and when we come back, we'll be talking more about lifestyle and environmental factors and how it increasingly importantly affects our health. We'll be right back.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Hi, welcome back. You're with the Holistic Nurse with Peggy Smith, and today we're discussing early warning signals that your body sends to us to let us know long before a serious illness develops. Understanding our lifestyle and environmental factors are extremely important. They influence our health probably more than any other factor. And there's lots of resources out there in the topics of nutrition science, stress management, environmental health, metabolic balance. People are learning every day how to make better choices that provide increased chances, opportunities for long-term well-being and just better health. And when you can learn and understand how your body responds to stress and environmental factors, it empowers you to make better informed health decisions. Inflammation is a silent signal. It's often misunderstood. Many people think of it as swelling of a body part, or maybe swelling if you have asthma, swelling the villi in your lungs. But inflammation is only part of the immune's defense system. It helps identify infection, toxins in your body, any damaged tissue, metabolic stress. The immune system activates inflammatory pathways to repair and protect the body. And at the same time, very often, we're counteracting our immune system's efforts by just eating foods that are more inflammatory, just having just not even putting ourselves first. And many of us are caregivers, so it's easy not to put ourselves first. But if you don't put yourself first and even schedule yourself in your calendar, as a guest we had last week, Dr. Andrea Niestas, talking about you have to take care of yourself. You have to schedule time in your day to stop and listen to yourself. And Dr. Andrea had actually given us some 5 to 15-minute hacks for self-care and stress management for people that think they're too busy to take care of themselves. So you can always go back to the channel and refer to that. Her handouts and her information is very helpful. It's short-term information, as I said, is helpful, but long-term information, let's say you're a smoker for years, and I have patients that say, well, I have to die of something. There's certain chronic illnesses that you can reverse to a degree, but if you don't do anything about it and you just let them progress and take over the inflammation and all the side effects and damage to your body, I can tell you as a healthcare provider that the resulting end stages of those illnesses and diseases are not very pleasant. They're not very comfortable. So there are lots of ways to learn how to stop smoking. I don't want to say substitute something for smoking because that's not the solution. You need to substitute the lifestyle or the stress that's causing somebody to engage in a habit like that. Um, Coffee didn't used to be considered so much a bad habit, but caffeine constricts your blood vessels, makes it difficult for you to just relax, period. But as the blood vessels are constricted, that means that the heart is not able to pump your blood to get to all the areas in your body and make a full, even, it's like the traffic when you create a traffic jam in your body for the blood. And that never has good outcomes. Uh, some of the signs for inflammation might be joint stiffness, digestive issues again. We are what we eat, and it's going to keep coming up in almost any topic we have. Persistent fatigue, skin problems, and brain fog. And every one of those items, the stiffness, the digestive issues, the fatigue, the skin problems, and brain fog, can be a lot of the symptoms can be alleviated by just simple, proper hydration. Um, Water, as we often say, is the cheapest medicine out there. You don't need a prescription for it. Um, and none of us drink enough of it. But we'd be doing our bodies and our minds and our whole life and family and our earth better, if we would just hydrate better. Research has shown, though, that chronic inflammation leads to cardiovascular disease. It leads to an increase in metabolic disorders. That would be like your diabetes, Crohn's disease, autoimmune disorders. There's chances are if you have the genetic propensity for autoimmune disorders, you don't have just one. If you have asthma, you might also be a diabetic. You might have Crohn's disease. But most autoimmune diseases, although they may not necessarily go away, the symptoms can be alleviated by just managing your stress and living a healthier lifestyle. Some people look at exercise as just another source of stress. You're not supposed to feel guilty if you aren't running the treadmill as fast as the other guy at Planet Fitness. But if you're doing anything, just moving, getting up, if you're chair bound, you can move your arms, you can march in place with your legs. You have to circulate the blood in your body, and being in one position all the time. If you're at a desk job, you should get up at least every 2 hours, even if it's just to walk around your office for a second and stretch, to let the blood circulate back to your brain, because it kind of gets stuck in traffic jams before it gets back to your brain and then to your heart. Digestive issues, I think we've all noticed there's certain foods that no matter how much we like them, maybe ice cream, maybe something sweet, or we see a difference in our mood, and we also see a difference in our bathroom habits. And if you're running to the bathroom all the time because you can't process food, because you're not taking time to chew it, you're not taking time to actually even spend 15, 20 minutes and taking a lunch break, then you're going to have complications, and by the end of the day, you're going to be too tired to face whatever you want to face in your private life at home. Neurodegenerative diseases are also been linked to chronic inflammation. Now, that doesn't mean if you've been diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's, or you have Lou Gehrig's, the ALS in your family, doesn't mean that you might not eventually get it. But if you're living a healthy, anti-inflammatory lifestyle, and really taking care of yourself, and part of that is even communicating with your brain, hey, I know we got dealt this, hand on this deck of cards, but help me live the healthiest life I can, so that when you do get that diagnosis, if it is inevitable, your symptoms maybe won't be as extreme, and you can still be productive as much as you're able to. Autoimmune conditions, the diabetes, the type 2 diabetes, the asthma, again, the Crohn's disease, the psoriasis, all of that are things, if you're allergic to just seasonal allergies, chances are you've got some autoimmune genes in your body that maybe just haven't flared up yet. And they don't have to, you don't have to sit and wait for them to flare up, and they don't necessarily have to get activated if you're taking steps to, really treat your body uh, in the best way possible. And it doesn't usually cost a lot of money to drink water. You can exercise. You don't have to join the gym. You can exercise in your living room. Um, there's a lot of choices you can make that do not have to be costly. But it is important too to make sure that you're not just diagnosing yourself and then treating yourself with Dr. Google. Um, because there are a lot of modern medicines that actually help you function better short term and long term. The medicines are created to prevent long term damage for certain types of illnesses. And you need to have communication with a medical provider, ideally somebody that knows you well, not hopping around. Most of us, have one doctor for our animals, one veterinarian. Um, Sometimes people will go to a doctor, they don't like the answer they get, so they keep going to different doctors to get different answers. Um, if you had that same response to 3 or 4 medical providers, you really need to look at yourself and say, okay, what am I running from? What am I afraid of? And, it's like, they say that denial is not just a river on this continent. Um, Denial can actually cause permanent damage and harm and set you back and change your lifestyle totally. So you have to pay attention long before these diseases start. The body often sends us signals, and recognizing the signals and training yourself to be aware so that you can recognize them, especially if you know you've got particular genes. That might show up at some point. It doesn't mean that they have to. There's a theory, some people feel that we're all born with everything inside us and it only gets activated in certain people. That's been, there are people that um, there are identical twins even that should have the same medical everything, and the way one reacts or lifestyle is different. When they're raised in different places, then they get together for research. Um, it just shows how much lifestyle is different, how important your emotional health is, because controlling your stress and improving your emotional health um, actually can do a long way to alleviating symptoms and managing chronic illnesses. Um, so health is not just the absence of disease. We need to recognize our signs early, um, and we need to not ignore them. In addition to caffeine, alcohol, there's theories, a glass of wine a day is good for your circulation. Other people say, no, it constricts your vesicles. There are certain health conditions, chronic conditions, that either caffeine or alcohol might not be appropriate or safe for you. And so it's really important to get reliable sources for your information and and use good judgment. Don't keep searching until you hear the answer you want to hear, because um, like when you're a kid and you ask your father for something and he says, go ask your mother, it's because you don't like the answer one of them's going to give you. We're going to take another commercial break, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Hi, welcome back to The Holistic Nurse with Peggy Smith, as we're discussing signals that our bodies give us to warn us ahead of time that we need to take better care of ourselves. It's important to consider the sources. Obviously, with insurance challenges and everything, most people do research their symptoms when they finally become aware of them on the internet. Not all of the information out there is reliable or safe. A good rule of thumb might be if it's a really, really extreme suggestion, maybe like starving yourself. Some of these fasting diets, they serve a purpose, but they're not necessarily safe for everybody. If you already know, like say, you're diabetic or borderline diabetic, you don't want to try one of these extreme fast programs. Because you will accelerate your diabetes and maybe cause more problems that will cost you a lot more money in the long run. All traditional medicine has side effects. And in fact, when the FDA is approving medication, if even one person in 10 million has a side effect, it has to be listed on your label. So don't discount common, proved, reliable medical solutions to whatever you have, just because your side effect is on that list. Some side effects, like when you're on chemotherapy, for instance, you're going to have side effects, but the chemo is what's going to get rid of the cancer. There are things you can do to support yourself, and I didn't mention it, but most cancers are also of an autoimmune origin. It's your body's fighting against something in you. And a lot of the misconceptions are with chemotherapy is they think it's the poison that kills the good cells and the bad cells. But cutting edge research and treatments that most people have, it's actually the immunotherapy class of medications, infusions that are doing even more than traditional chemotherapy. But you're not, even if that's your specialty in your profession, you need to get a professional that you trust. You need to listen to all sides, all your options, make a decision that's in your best interest, but make it well informed. Anything that is really extreme is usually not safe. I can say that relatively safely. The body rarely goes from perfect health overnight to serious disease. Even if you had a sudden heart attack with no heart history in your family, but maybe you've been living a stressful life, it didn't just happen overnight. The inflammation, the seeds for that massive heart attack that, sometimes it's one that's all that takes somebody, that the person just might not have seen or felt the warning signs. maybe you're having chest pain, you're short of breath, and you just say, well, it's because it's a 30-step flight of stairs, or the airs are too cold outside. And yes, all those things complicate you if you do have cardiovascular disease, but they might also be a warning, because perfectly healthy people, unless it's extreme sub-zero temperatures, should be able to tolerate certain environments. If you know you have in your family history the cardiovascular, the respiratory issues, you don't want to go out shoveling snow and put more stress on your body. You don't want to uh, drink alcohol. Many people don't realize how much sugar is in alcohol. I had a patient years ago, a home care patient. She didn't have a lot of formal education, and she drank about, I think it was a gallon bottle of corn liquor every day, and her sugar was always 600 when I went to see her. So I explained to her that the corn liquor was all sugar, and she said, well, nobody told me there's sugar in alcohol. That's how alcohol, the kind we drink, is produced. It is all sugar. If you're on blood thinners, alcohol has the effect of thinning out your blood even more, making you higher risk for, if you bump yourself, having a stroke or something. So everything needs to be in moderation, and there are many medications that do not mix well with alcohol. That seems to be one of the things on the label people ignore the most. Uh, Sleep cannot be sacrificed. People like nurses, first responders, police officers that work shift work, it's been documented in research that we usually have shorter lifespans because we're jerking our bodies around, sleeping at odd times. Um, Digestive issues are normalized. You figured, well, I shouldn't have eaten that extra piece of cake, or I know that hot dogs really aren't that good, or yeah, you make excuses uh, to explain your symptoms. And the other side of that is we get bombarded with commercials from the pharmaceutical industries. Ask your doctor if this is right for you. Um, there's a lot of, like, there was one thing that I actually thought might apply to some symptoms I was having years ago, and I mentioned it to my doctor. She'd never heard of the disease that they were promoting to justify the drug they were trying to sell. And, she wasn't a new doctor. She'd been in practice 40, 50 years. Um, so, and I asked a doctor once, so I wanted a choice for Lyme disease, and I went to the traditional infectious disease doctor. He said, very politely, the philosophy that you're expressing is not discussed in the pews of the church I attend. He didn't tell me I was an idiot. We just had different feelings about it. You need to look at your sources. Digestive issues should never be normalized. Sleep should never be sacrificed. Stress cannot be ignored. And you have to learn to listen to your body. So I want to thank you today for joining me on The Holistic Nurse with Peggy Smith. If today's episode helped you think about your health in a new way, consider sharing it with someone who might benefit learning about the body's warning signals. Remember, your body is always communicating with you, but the big question is, are we listening? Take care. We'll see you next Saturday at this time. Have a wonderful week.
This has been The Holistic Nurse with host Peggy Smith. Tune in each week where you're encouraged to send in questions and receive private responses and suggestions if appropriate. Here's Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern.